Tottenham Hotspur
I
Stadium.
love this stadium
home
so
to-
much, and I'm so mad Chelsea don't have it.
I forgot.
What is going on, guys? It is JJ here, back once again with yet another video. And yes, the Euros are finally over. We finally, unless you're an American like me, get a break from international football with the US playing in the Gold Cup alongside like Qatar and also Panama and other countries like that. We don't actually get a break. I'm going to continue watching that. But for the most part, all of the European players are finally done. We can finally take a look and actually focus on like the transfer season and camps and preseason games, etc. And to get started with that, we have to get ready for the Premier League season. And so we're going to take a look at every Premier League stadium for 2021-2022. I love taking a look at stadiums. Some of these will be the same that we've already taken a look at, but it's just more of like an in-depth view of all of the stadiums, the rivalries, etc. for the season coming up. So let me know what you guys think. What's your favorites? What's your least favorite? Down in the comments below. What would you guys like to see come up from the championship even next year for 2022-23? But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's get into the video. As well, guys, you can find the original video just down in the description below.
The Premier League needs no introduction.
Does not indeed. You are correct, sir.
So I'll instead use that time to say we'll be going through at least the top 4 tiers of English football. So if you support one of those clubs and
Top
have an
4
interesting fact
tiers?
or just a little tidbit about your stadium, I'd love to hear them. So please let me know in the comments.
I'm sorry, I thought
Anyway,
this was just
let's
Premier
get into
League.
the stadiums.
I thought this was just Premier League.
We start off with Emirates Stadium, home to Arsenal. It's one
I
of
do
only
like
a
this Google
handful
review.
of Premier League stadiums built this millennium, and the design certainly reflects that. It's
Arsenal may be a joke this season, but I'm going to enjoy every second of it. Okay? Arsenal
reminiscent
deserve.
of the Stadio de Luz in Lisbon.
Listen, it's
After
a beautiful
all, it was
stadium,
designed by the same firm.
and the fans are
The
great.
interior is
That's
almost
it.
identical. It's made up of 4 tiers
Arteta's
of
not the
gold
man to
seating
save them.
with the top
I
tier
don't think they're going to be
undulating,
saved.
which is kind of cool. Although I don't often talk about atmosphere, the Emirates is often called the library by away fans, which tells you everything you need to know. But it's certainly a great looking stadium. Oh, come on. You shush.
And this guy needs a little bit of excitement.
Villa Park,
He needs some
home to
animation,
Aston
just a
Villa.
little bit.
If I
Hype
wasn't
up, bro.
already familiar with the stadium, I'd swear that Villa Park was the name of a housing estate.
Bro, Villa Park is actually
But
so
no,
sick, though.
It's definitely a stadium.
It is so sick. I
It
would
has more
love to
of a
visit Villa
traditional
Park.
design than the last one, with 4 individual stands that have slowly conjoined over time.
Aren't they doing
And
renovations
some
on
of
Villa
those
Park as well?
stands, particularly this
If I'm
one,
not mistaken, they
have
are
a
actually
beautiful
correct.
brick facade. On the inside, the seats are done up in the club's colours of claret and sky blue. After all, they were the first to wear it, and it has since become a very popular choice for other clubs.
Yeah. Brighton.
The
Oh my God, I
Amex,
forgot.
Brighton and
I
Hove
forgot
Albion.
Brighton was even in the
It was
Premier
built a
League.
little way out of
Jesus
the centre of
Christ.
Brighton and Hove, in a village called
I did
Farnham.
not remember that in the
The
slightest.
stadium features a very distinctive sloping roof canopy that almost slopes all the way down to the ground behind each goal. This is partially due to the disparity in size between the different stands, and it looks pretty good as well. The interior is also quite visually striking.
I do like the
It just
MX.
looks very spick and
Graham
span.
Potter is a good manager
Great
too,
little
so I mean
stadium.
maybe this place will be actually the place that sees some wins this year.
Turf Moor.
I forgot
home to
Burnley stayed up too. Jesus
It is
Christ.
arguably the most simple of the
It is
Premier League
very
stadiums.
simple.
But some would say that's a good thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's a Bob the Builder quote. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's made up of 4 completely separate stands. No frills,
I
but
don't know
it gets
about
the
that.
job done.
I'm not sure about the whole
One
Bob
thing I
Builder
really
thing,
like
but let's
about it
continue.
is that due to the stands on the west and the south being considerably
Dude,
smaller,
I hate Burnley Stadium with
it
a
offers
passion.
those sitting
I can,
higher up in the other stands a
I
pretty
did not realize
decent
there was
view
hills in the
around
back. I like
hills
that.
And Burnley itself, which I believe they call the Venice of the North.
Honestly, I kind of like the stadium view.
Stamford Bridge, home to Chelsea.
Chelsea!
Out of the so-called Big Six club stadiums,
Yeah, Stamford
Stamford
Bridge is probably the worst.
smallest.
Yeah.
It is, however, the biggest stadium in Fulham, rather than Fulham's. And it's currently the oldest Premier League League stadium.
What,
For
really?
those 140 odd years, it has hosted basically every sport under the sun, even greyhound racing. On
Yeah,
that
Chelsea
note,
really do need to
why
get a
is it
stadium
always
renovation.
greyhounds?
I know
I'd
we
love
had
to
the
see
plans
a pub
for it.
race.
And the stadium renovation
Anyway,
plans
Chelsea
look cool,
have well
but
and truly made the stadium their own since the
Chelsea are
days of
kind of
greyhounds.
broke.
Particularly on the
Human,
inside
like,
where it's
nah.
very Chelsea.
Billionaire
Yeah,
rich.
not too shabby.
But the Champions League title
They
is
do
coming
have
home,
a
so I
rather
mean,
spectacular upgrade plan.
2
but that
times,
won't be for a
baby.
little while.
2 stars. See, that would have been so sick. I would have loved that.
Selhurst Park, home to Crystal Palace. In some ways, it's a shame that Crystal Palace aren't one of the bigger clubs,
No, it's not.
because the potential
Thank
for
God.
a stadium for a club named Crystal Palace is immense. If you're unfamiliar, the nearby area in which the club used to play is named Crystal Palace, after the incredible building that went by the same name. That was unbelievably built in 1851. And a big budget stadium inspired by the Crystal Palace would be freaking incredible. Maybe one day. But for now,
no.
Selhurst Park
Probably
is
never.
adequate.
Probably never.
It's very old-fashioned.
Crystal Palace are not, they're not cutting
two
it.
of the stands still have those obstructive support pillars holding up the roof. Goodison Park, home to Everton. Famously, this ground
Isn't
was
there-
built
there's
after
a new
Everton
Everton
moved
stadium
out of
coming.
Anfield.
On
And
the
it has
river, if
since
I'm not
hosted
mistaken. It
more
actually looks
top-flight
pretty cool.
football than any other ground in the country, so that's good. But the move out of Anfield did spawn their arch enemies. Goodison Park is a good-looking ground, and it's loved by many. However, it is aging. As you can see, once again there are those support pillars on some of the stands, which obviously isn't ideal. So the grand old lady hasn't got too many years left, as Everton will be moving to what seems to be an absolute
Yeah, that
beauty of the
that is
stadium.
gorgeous.
Hopefully
That
they
is an
take the atmosphere
absolute
along
gorgeous
with it.
stadium.
Elland Road, home to Leeds United.
Leeds,
It's not too
Leeds.
dissimilar to the last one, from the bird's eye view at least,
Bro, Bielsa ball is about
And
to
it
be in
too
full
has some
effect this year.
outdated
Everyone's gotten
design
so
elements.
much rest.
such as, yet again, pillars supporting the roof in some sections. But after consolidating their position in the Premier League, the plans to upgrade and expand the stadium to a capacity of around 55,000 seem likely
I
to
would
go
not do
ahead.
that yet.
Interestingly, Allen's Road was originally known as the Old Peacock Ground, named after the adjacent pub.
I don't
I've
know.
got to
See,
say,
that's the thing
they
though,
should have
is
kept that name instead of naming
the whole
it up.
stadium renovations thing after surviving the Premier League scares me. Because imagine if Marcelo Bielsa were to leave Leeds, it's
Borough
over.
Road.
The dream would be over.
The
They
old
would
Peacock
plummet
Ground.
so hard.
I like it.
Players like Calvin Phillips, Luke Ayling, Patrick Bamford, all.
King Power Stadium, home to Leicester City. It's been 5 years since they pulled off the unthinkable, and I'm glad to see that the wheels haven't fallen off since then.
Well, yeah,
Given Leicester's
they
relative
would make sense for
success,
stadium
their
renovation.
stadium remains quite humble, but they are planning an
Okay, yeah,
expansion.
see, that makes sense.
I don't think any design is set in stone.
Like they're going to be
but it
back
could
in the
end up
Europa
looking
League for
like
the second
Cardiff
year in a
City
row.
Stadium,
Like they got.
which is no bad
Wait,
thing.
what?
But hopefully they go for something a bit different. The stadium's current design is far from being something a bit different. There are quite a few stadiums in England that look very similar. In particular, one that's coming up later in the video.
Did he
The
Spoil
interior
it
is just a simple...
by accidentally
simple
showing the
bulb,
stadium that's coming
but
up earlier?
It looks fine.
Is it Cardiff? It's Cardiff, isn't it? Ah, Enfield.
Anfield, home to Liverpool, the club that was formed when Everton moved out. It was a prudent decision to name the club Liverpool.
Because that's the
It
city
could be
that
a
they
small
live in.
reason behind the club's popularity in Liverpool. It just casts a broader net than the name Everton,
Oh, wow.
but winning helps
Great,
with
I
the
mean, yeah,
popularity
fair.
as well. Anfield has one of the best looking stands in the world.
The cop.
I am of course speaking of the main stand,
Oh, never mind.
particularly the exterior. It's
It is
modern,
gorgeous.
but the facade is mostly made of brick, so it looks fairly traditional at the same time. And on top of that, literally, the roof canopy is fairly unique. It kinda looks like the brim of a baseball cap or something.
So, I mean, yeah, he's actually kind of
The
not
rest of
wrong
the
there.
stadium is a little more typical, but also pretty darn good. Etihad Stadium, home to Manchester City. This one has a short history, but a unique history. It was originally built for the 2002 Commonwealth
Really?
Games, but it was always going to be converted into a football stadium afterwards and was designed as such. The stadium's most unique feature would have to be the cable-supported roof canopy that's held up by these masts that surround the stadium.
Which I think are really, really modern.
The cables kind
They're
of
super
look
chic.
like
I
giant
dig them.
harps. I wonder if you could play them.
Wow. Okay, that was
what do you
cringe.
know?
That was extremely
Good
cringe. But you know what? We'll take
Not
it.
bad. The interior
Plus,
is made
I actually really, really like the training grounds that kind of surround the stadium at the Etihad. I think the Etihad, in general, like Man City in general, with plus all of their like grounds and like academy grounds and stuff like that surrounding, are pretty magnificent. I think they're really, really nice.
And not too far
Manchester
away
United.
is Old Trafford.
They're going to
to
be a
Manchester
problem
United.
this year.
Although the name Old Trafford
Guys, they're going to be a problem. Jadon Sancho, probably Rafael Varane, Pogba still staying, Bruno Fernandes with something to prove after how bad he was at the Euros. Actually, which he wasn't bad. It was just he did not fit Portugal. Which isn't a bad thing also either. Portugal are stacked. Sometimes stars don't mix. It's like Beckham and Rooney and Scholes trying to fit in the old England team. Like sometimes it's difficult to fit those players in. But United with Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, Edinson Cavani, Mason Greenwood, like that's a stacked Anthony Martial still. That's a stacked attack, guys. That's a scary attack. And then Pogba and Bruno behind. Oh my god. They are 110% in the title hunt.
It is true.
Title could be
it's
coming
quite
back to
old,
United. For sure.
and it's showing its age in some areas. But nevertheless, it's the biggest and
Man City are
arguably
gonna
the
eat their
most famous
hearts out
Premier
watching
League
him
stadium.
leave.
I said arguably, okay?
Like imagine
Let's just
Sancho
get
and
that
Foden
clear.
in Man City right now. They'd be
The
killing
exterior
people.
consists
Be
of a lot
murdering
of
everyone.
brick and glass, which looks great. But something Old Trafford is especially known for are those inclined roofs, which give the stadium a unique look on the outside, but on the inside it sort of blacks out and blocks off the upper seating. Particularly on the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. And there's something about that that has to add to the
It's not
intimidating
really.
atmosphere.
No.
Fear of the unknown, I guess. Feyenoord's De Kuip has a similar
That's pretty
situation.
dope. The Feyenoord
like
Stadium looks better, to be completely honest with you. The Feyenoord Stadium looks dope.
St James's Park, home to Newcastle United.
Can't stand
the
Can't stand
northernmost
Newcastle or
Premier
Sunderland,
League
to be
team.
completely honest with you. It would be sick to live
For
here,
some
though.
reason, I really
live
like
there
the
would be pretty
slightly
dope.
unusual asymmetrical
I would
design
actually
of
love
the
to go see a
stadium.
Newcastle Sunderland game.
This was done because,
That'd be really tight.
as you can probably see, there's a shortage of available land on two sides of the stadium. So they simply didn't have room to
Rugby pitch
expand
in there?
further. The additional seating had to be put on the other sides, causing this lopsided
Which I
design
don't
that
really
we have
mind.
here. Other than that, the design isn't too unusual. Just like Crystal Palace, they could have really played off the team's name and made a new castle-like exterior, like what you see on many college football
Ooh,
stadiums.
actually, he's got a point there.
But then, once the castle's been around a while, it becomes an old castle, so it would be irrelevant. Carrow Road.
Norwich are back in the Prem. Okay.
After 4 big boys in a row, we're back to something a little more modest. It's not like they can spend a load
Yeah.
of money on a huge stadium, they're not rich. But they don't need a big stadium anyway, this one is perfectly fine. It's actually one of my favourite of the smaller
no.
stadiums,
No.
but I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's simply just those yellow and green seats. They really stand out when watching it on TV. It was particularly noticeable in the last couple of seasons without any fans. Oh, and there's actually a hotel hidden somewhere in the stadium
What?
as well, which is kinda cool, but where is it?
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
that's gotta be it.
There's a Holiday Inn right inside the stadium for Norwich.
St. Mary's
I
Stadium.
did not realize that.
It's a
I should just go to a Chelsea Norwich game and just
It's
stay
the
at the
red
hotel.
version of the King
That'd be
Power
pretty dope.
Stadium. Although I shouldn't say that, I should say the King Power is the blue version of St. Mary's. Because it actually did come first, by a grand total of 1 year. I don't know what else to say, it's just the same as the KV
Okay, well
really.
then leave it at that.
I guess there's probably some good fish and
Pass.
chips nearby. That water right next door is technically a river, but the sea is right over there.
Oh my goodness. Yes, good idea.
Let's just move on. Tottenham Hotspur
I love
Stadium.
this stadium
home
so
to-
much, and I'm so mad Chelsea don't have it.
I forgot.
They do need to
For
rename
a
it
couple
though.
of years, it was the newest Premier League
It
stadium.
was like a Tottenham legend.
But as you'll see later on, another
they could-
team has put an end to that.
You know,
It still has to be the flashiest stadium in the league, and arguably in Europe. Although I don't think there is an official.
that's fair, but the team is
index to go
massively
by.
in debt because of it.
But just look at that. I don't often say
Tottenham
this
as well.
about a
Gonna be
stadium,
so scary this year.
but it's a sexy stadium. I mean, look at that giant cock rule up there on the roof. A golden cock rule is amongst the most sought-after stadium features.
I can't.
But a more
I can't
useful
believe
feature
him.
that I particularly
I can't
like
believe him
is
for
the
saying
south
that.
stand. It's just one big wall of seats. The interior is definitely better than the exterior, though. Don't
It
get
does
me
look
wrong,
great. It looks like a toilet
great.
bowl. What?
Vicarage Road, home to
I did
Watford.
not realize they were back as well.
On the surface,
God, I did not see the
Vic
end of the
doesn't
championship
look too
season.
far out of the ordinary. It's a fairly typical ground
I did
made
a
up of
whoopsie
4
there.
individual stands, with one stand that is particularly built up. But perhaps the most peculiar thing about this stadium is that
There's
one
so
of the
many
stands is
London
named
teams.
after Elton John.
There's way too many London
Sir
teams,
Elton
actually.
John, I should say. He is, of course, a Watford supporter, and formerly the major shareholder, president, and chairman. But forget about that. I've just learned that for a brief period in the early 90s, this place was home to Wealdstone FC, which means that the Wealdstone Raider has most likely been here before. Forget about Elton John, his fame pales in comparison.
Is Elton
to
John
the
like a
man.
big Watford fan? West Ham, the
London Stadium. One of the most generic names imaginable. It's the home of West Ham United.
And concerts galore.
West Ham have one-upped Manchester City's Commonwealth Games Stadium and gone with the former Olympic Games Stadium. But by no means does it mean it's a better ground. It is actually a much maligned stadium. It looks alright to be fair, but I don't think the aesthetics are the main issue.
I actually really
Although
like
from
the
an
London
Olympics
Stadium.
perspective, it followed from Beijing's Bird Nest Stadium, which is
Gorgeous.
a far more interesting
That is
design.
gorgeous.
But the disdain for London Stadium has probably to do with
Is
the
this
fact
West
that
Ham?
it's a bit
No, it's West
soulless,
Ham that's there, that's
and many
why.
of the seats are quite far from the action. And a lot of fans weren't too pleased with the move to begin with, regardless of what the stadium was like.
I mean, the bowling
But
ground.
relatively speaking, in the grand scheme of the entire world, it's still a fine
it's nice.
stadium.
Who's even left? Wolves.
Molineux Stadium, home to the Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Says Wolves. Who's...
You've got to
Who's
love a
left?
bit of alliteration. Wonderful wording. The stadium's exterior
I'm gonna be
is done
completely
up.
honest with you. I want Wolves to get relegated, so we're gonna skip past them, so I can see this new stadium with Brentford.
Cab off the rank
Why were they
is
not in the
Brentford
beginning?
Community Stadium, home of the Brentfords.
Oh,
This
it's a
one
brand new
definitely doesn't
stadium.
look vintage. Like I alluded to earlier, it's the newest stadium in the
Ooh, I
Premier League,
like.
having had the
Ooh, I
misfortune
like.
of opening in the year 2020. This place is absolutely
I really
stunning.
like
Just
the
look at the
Brentford
sharp
Stadium.
angles of the roof.
Plus they got like
line.
flux of cash.
Magnificent. The first time I mentioned this stadium on the
Okay,
channel,
well that is it, guys. We've just taken a look at the 2021-2022 Premier League stadiums. The top of the list, Tottenham, obviously. I think it won. This new Brentford one looks gorgeous. I'm gonna count the new Everton as number 3, just because I know they're not gonna be in it, but it looks amazing. And we'll say Old Trafford number 4. I don't really know what else to think. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. And let me know what you guys want to see. If you guys want to go through and like see championship stadiums for 2021-22, if you guys want to go to different countries, back to different leagues, etc., let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.